Good morning. I see two people in the chat so far. Can you guys say hi to let me know if you can see me and hear me, then we can get started. Just want to make sure I'm not talking to myself. So just let me know in the chat. All right, Jen. All right, cool, awesome. You can see me, then I'll get straight into it. We are talking today about Facebook ads. Have any of you done Facebook ads yet? Is this new to you? Have you dabbled in it? Are you doing it for a while? And what sort of business do you have? If you want to let me know that will help me make sure I talk about the right things. Completely new, no business. Okay. Beginning and everything. That's exciting. Very good. Lucy, are you in? And if so, let me know what sort of business you're in and what you're hoping to get out of this session. I'm going to get started. Okay, Facebook ads. So between Google and Facebook, hey Tamala, how are you? Between Google and Facebook, in Australia specifically, they dominate about 85 to 90% of the traffic online. So if you want to get in front of somebody, this is one of the best ways to, to get out there and get your brand seen, make your sales, that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you how to set up a new campaign and just giving you some of the heads up. Oh, nice. New marketing officer. Brilliant. To give you sort of an idea of, okay, what is involved in setting up an ad, because it's more than just writing a post, having a nice photo, and, posting it and putting a boost behind it, for example. So boosting is the easy way of running ads on Facebook. And all it means is on your page, you can basically create a post and there's an option that says boost this post, and boosting simply is a dumbed down version or a simplified version of the ads manager that Facebook has available. And it will only have limited options for you to target that kind of stuff. It can work really well if your messaging and your ad copy and your audience is a good match and it's all on point. However, today we're going to walk through the ads manager itself, which is the more the expert mode, so to speak. And this is where you can really refine and tweak and adjust your campaigns the way you would like them to be. So there's a couple of things we need in order to run ads. So first and foremost, you need a Facebook account. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Second of all, you're going to have a business page. So your ads will be running under the business page name. So you can run ads personally, but you still need to have a page. Third thing is obviously you need an ad account. So that's another thing that you need to get set up. And the fourth thing is you're going to need the Facebook pixel. And the pixel is something that is important because that allows Facebook to optimize, become smarter about how your campaigns are performing, and eventually give you better bang for your buck. So those things are necessary for you to run an ad. There is something like Business Manager as well, which is essentially a tool set that Facebook gives us, or Meta gives. I keep saying Facebook, but it's Meta. They give us the tool set to really manage all these things in one place. So I'm currently in one of my Business Manager accounts. By the way, ask me any questions during this session because there will be questions, I'm sure. And I will jump into the chat from time to time to just see if I can address anything specific to your question. All right, so if I get into my Business Manager. So I've got a Business Manager account here for one of my private businesses, which is Digital Coach. You can see I've got several assets under here. I have several other business accounts. I've got some personal business pages and accounts as well. This gets confusing sometimes because these ad accounts are not necessarily owned by a business manager. Anyway, This is hopefully not something you'll have to deal with. Just work with your own business manager account. I highly suggest to get that sorted out from day one, because organization is everything. If you don't have it organized, it can get messy really quickly. And that means that sometimes permissions on a page and an ad account and a pixel might be scattered across multiple sort of instances, and stuff doesn't work properly. Now, if I were to be in my business account here, the things that I mentioned, we need to have a page. And I'm just going to use my primary business page here as an example. We don't actually do our own advertising because we don't need to, but this is a dummy account that I use to do sessions like this. So obviously we've got the Digital Coach primary page. Then what we have is an ad account here, which is associated with that page, which is obviously the one we're going to be using today. And then on the data sources on the left-hand side, there's pixels. And one of the pixels, there's two pixels here. I need to double check which one we're actually actively using, but I can actually do that quickly. I keep forgetting to fix that up. So it's important that you do as I say, not as I do, because yeah, it's not ideal the way we've set it up, but like, once again, we don't use it for ourselves. Okay, my pixel is the 1359. Okay, so this is our pixel. All right, so we have a page, we have an ad account, we have a pixel, and I'm going to get straight into the ads manager. And essentially, this is what you would look at if you log into Facebook under your ads account. Oh, you just lost me. Let me know if I'm still here, guys. I'm not getting any other error messages or anything. So before I continue, let me know if you can still see me. Or do you mean you just lost me about the things that I was just talking about? That's a possibility as well. All right, you can see in here. All right. Okay, I'm just going to jump into the ad account in that case. So 3 things we look for here is a campaign level. Then the second tab here is ad set level, and then you'll have an ad level. And that hierarchy or whatever you call that, is essentially the structure that Facebook uses. So under your campaign settings, let me just unselect that campaign. Under your campaign settings, and I'm going to create a new campaign here, and I'll show you what the options are. Keep in mind that it's important to get the right steps in the right order. In your campaign, depending on the objective that I select here, in your ad sets and in your ad, there will be features enabled or disabled based on what you choose here. So be mindful of what you need for your business. So we're going to do a very basic setup here, and typically link clicks or landing page views to a product page or a sales page might be one of the ways to go. And that's what I'm going to go for today. There are other options. So you can see here the awareness objective, for example. You can have this for reach, which means get in front of as many people as possible, which is good for your brand. Obviously, brand awareness there, video views. So you're optimizing, you're telling Facebook, hey, I want you to find people who watch videos. And store location awareness. This is more like when you have a brick and mortar store. Traffic, the second one here, is good for link clicks, landing page views, Messenger and WhatsApp messages, and phone calls. Engagement is good for, as you can see, Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp. Video views, once again, so some of these will cross over into different objectives. Conversions and post engagement. And then we have leads, where people can fill out an instant form on an ad. They can click on it, it automatically fills in their details. It's a very, very easy way to collect leads. Obviously, Messenger messages, conversions. Once again, this could be for e-commerce stores, etc. Then we'll have app promotion, which unless you actually have an app that you are currently developing or have launched, this is not really for anyone else. And then sales is really for targeting, getting conversions, catalog sales if you have an e-commerce store, and messages. So we're going to pick traffic here. Simply because this is one of the main ones that people typically use, and there's some refinement in terms of how you would set up a campaign. I'll get to that in a second, but for now we're just going to continue, and we're going to call this campaign what do we call it? Traffic. Actually, I'll use my typical the way I typically would name these things. So I would say traffic product page, And then we're going to say we're optimizing for a landing page use LPV. And this will make sense in a second. The reason I'll use standard definitions across how I name everything is because once I have multiple campaigns running with multiple ad sets and multiple ads, I want to see in a quick overview exactly that I know this ad is doing this, that ad set is targeting those people, and this is the objective of this specific campaign. So obviously we're going for traffic here, and then the landing page views, and the landing page views will be selected in the next step. And it all makes sense. Sometimes this gets overwhelming because there is a lot of stuff to remember, but just keep in mind that Facebook does have this whole wizard thing where it says, hey, what do you want to do? Click on this if you want to get that done, etc. So just go by what you read here, and always click on the little information button behind it if you don't know what something means, because it's going to give you more info. And this name is just a placeholder for now. If we're going to create an ad set, and we're going to call this ad set number 1 for simplicity's sake, and then this ad is also number 1 for simplicity's sake. The reason I would do it this way is because I will build out one campaign with one ad set and one ad. That's the basic bare minimum. And then afterwards, I'm going to start duplicating certain things because that speeds up the work of the implementation. I don't have to actually start from scratch again, but yeah, we'll get to that. So we're going to hit continue. And okay, you can see me. Okay, perfect. So we're going to hit continue. And then let me just move this across. Now you can see how it's sort of, it's on an angle here. So we've got the traffic campaign, we got the ad set, and then we've got the ad. So you can see how it's all nested within each other. And you'll see this up here as well, that you got your campaign, your ad set, and your ad. So it's really important to understand that structure. All right, so the second part here is now we're going to set up our initial campaign settings. So we've selected the traffic objective. These special categories here, basically, unless you're in a specific industry, you don't have to use these. Most times people don't have to use these. The buying type, we can't change that. That's simply an auction. An auction meaning that all the advertisers on Facebook are trying to get in front of the same people. Then Facebook is going to look at certain things like, okay, how much are you willing to pay for this click? How relevant are your ads? What's the expected outcome for the user? They have a bit of an algorithm that decides who gets to get placed within that auction. That happens in like microseconds. So it's live. And then campaign objective, if we made a mistake initially, we can always say, oh no, actually I needed to do leads or sales or awareness, but in this case, obviously, we are not making any changes there because we're going to go with the traffic objective. There's an option down here that is a campaign spending limit, and this is always handy, especially when you begin. You can say, look, I don't want to accidentally, I've seen this happen over and over where people accidentally, you know, they think they set like a weekly budget or a monthly budget, and it turns out it's actually they set a daily budget. And that blows up your credit card real quick. So to be safe, you can say, look, I don't want to spend more than $100 or 1,000 or 10,000, whatever you're comfortable with. And what you can then say is, okay, whatever happens, it will not spend more than $100 in total. So that's it's like a safety measure, so to speak. Okay, so a couple of options here. There's an A/B test option, and an A/B test is nothing more than having two ads competing against each other with one big difference, as in the copy, one of the images might be different, or the call to action might be different, or the audience targeting might be different. And what Facebook does, if I were to say, I want to spend $10 a day on ads. If I enable the A/B test, they want to spend $20 because both ads need to have the same amount of money available to have an equal test. And testing is something that's important on here because you always want to make sure that you have at least 2 or 3 variables of an ad running and see which one performs better. We've seen examples where a picture or a different video makes all the difference in click-throughs. And click-throughs is essentially what we're trying to achieve here. An ad has one function, and that is to get the curiosity and get the click to take that visitor to your desired landing page or website or wherever you want to send them. Okay, so A/B testing is typically when you have decent amounts of money to spend on Facebook ads. There are smaller or easier ways, or not easier, but there are ways to do some A/B testing, and I'll get to that in a minute, which won't actually require you to double your budget. All right, under here, there is the Advantage campaign budget. This used to be called CBO, campaign budget optimization, and which came in probably 4 years ago now. And all this means is that instead of having to go setting our budgets per ad set manually, we can now say at the campaign level, so at the top level, if I'm going to run 2 different ad sets, and an ad set is purely where we would target different type of people, we can say, if I spend $10 a day, and I'm going to turn this on, especially when you're a beginner, I would just say, just turn that on. And then we're going to say, okay, we'll do $10. Then we're going to say, okay, our daily budget is $10. And what happens, because I turned this on, if I would have 2 ad sets in this campaign, Facebook is going to equally distribute that $10 across both ad sets. And so $5 for each. But then we allow Facebook to say quickly, or to realize, or to figure out which of these 2 ad sets is working better. And they're going to start spending the bulk of that $10 on the one that's performing better. So you'll see that that basically is their AI, their computer learning, and they're figuring out what's going to work, what's going to give you the best bang for your buck. Okay, everybody still with me? Yeah, no questions so far. All right, so always anything that has like the little plus icon or a little star icon, that's essentially Facebook trying to entice you to say, hey, this is a smart way of doing things. If you're an advanced advertiser, you don't always have to use this, because back in the day, we used to have to do everything manually, and we would have to manually set different bidding options per ad set and that kind of stuff. And so basically what Facebook is trying to do is make it as easy as possible for anyone to run ads. Okay, and then options here, we have daily budget or lifetime budget. Typically, I would stick just with a daily budget. Lifetime budget, this is, you'll see here, so if you choose a lifetime budget, you'll never spend more than that amount. If you choose a daily budget, you might spend more on some days and less on other days, but it will maintain an average daily budget. So if Facebook, for example, can't find enough traffic at the price point that we are trying to offer in terms of the budget we have, today it might only be able to spend $5 out of $10, but then tomorrow it might spend $15. It still equals, or it still sort of averages out to $10 a day. Keep that in mind. Another thing is, with the lifetime budget, there is an option for you to schedule your ads. So you can say, look, I only want to show my ads Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday, I don't want to show my ads. That is possible if I would select the lifetime budget option here. But typically, daily budget is more than enough for most people. All right, so just verifying that nothing else has changed. We're pretty good with this. Okay. Yeah, the ad scheduling here, you can see, like I said, if I would spend lifetime, yeah, I can actually edit this now, and I can say, this is the schedule I would like to run my ads on. It's just verifying some edits. Yeah. Okay. Back to $10, just in case it actually starts running. Okay, we're going to hit next. And you can see on the left-hand side, we've now jumped into the ad set level, right? So the campaign structure has been chosen. The objective has been chosen. It's going to be traffic. We then said, this is how much money we want to spend per day on whatever we're going to start advertising. And in here, in the ad set level, this is typically where you tell Facebook, okay, what do you actually want to do in terms of targeting? Where do you want to send people? That kind of stuff. So if we look at the very top here, number 1, as we just put in the placeholder, that's the ad set that we just created. And like I said, I'm going to create a single campaign with a single ad set and a single ad, and then we're going to start tweaking that afterwards by duplicating certain things. Okay, everybody's still there? No questions? Very good. Okay, so at this stage, keep an eye out on this. So they do change this from time to time to say, well, where do you want that conversion to happen? Where do you want to send the traffic in our case? And they selected WhatsApp, and they're probably trying to push their product awareness towards WhatsApp, so more people start using that. But what we want to do is we want to send people to a website. So when I say website, it means basically a web page, right? So it could be your homepage, but typically I would suggest having a sales page or a product page or something that, you know, makes it easy for whoever clicks on this ad to immediately get the information that they're looking for. And typically that's not a website, not a homepage, because a homepage is like a starting point where people can go, okay, where do I want to go from here? So the shorter the the journey between the first click and the outcome that you're looking for, the better your chances of conversion are. So if we were to send somebody to the homepage and they can't find the actual product that you were trying to advertise, they're going to leave, and you paid for that click, but they're not going to convert. So always send people directly. So really try to shortcut that. Okay, the thing I just mentioned about the A/B testing, the other option that we have is dynamic creative. And dynamic creative here is essentially, you can read it here. We provide the creative elements for the ads, such as images and headlines. Facebook will automatically make a mix, and every time they serve up an ad, they will pick and choose one of the elements that we've given them. So essentially, a single ad becomes multiple ads, right? Because we can have 5 different pieces of body copy. We can have 10 different images and photos. We can have 5 different headlines, call to actions. And let's say we have, everything is the same, but we have 5 different pictures. That means technically we have 5 different ads that Facebook would serve. So does that make sense? So your dynamic creative really allows you to test a little bit better in terms of which elements of your ad would work better. Because what happens is, let's say we got those 5 different ads with just different images, and we can then look at the analytics and the stats afterwards to say, hey, we can see that this image is actually getting more clicks. Well, we know that everything else is the same in this ad, but this one's getting more clicks. So we're going to keep that one. We're going to replace the other ones, and then we're going to keep testing, benchmarking against that to make sure we find the optimal sort of combination. So let me know if that makes sense, because people get confused about this one a little bit. So it's one ad essentially, but it is a dynamic ad. So yeah, let me have some water before I keep talking. Okay. Now, as you might recall, I said in the very beginning where I named it LPV, landing page views. The reason for that is that under the optimization and delivery option here, so because the objective is traffic, there's a few options for us to say, well, this is what I want to optimize traffic for. Link clicks is the default. Link clicks is also the cheapest, as in like, if I were to select landing page views, it means that my CPM is going to go up, and the CPM is the cost per mil, which basically just means that for every 1,000 times my ad's being seen, I'm going to get charged a certain amount, which could be $1, $10. I've seen it up to like $80, depending on the industry you're in. But that's your default pricing. If I were to select link clicks, that's probably going to be a low CPM. That would be probably $3 or $4, maybe even less. If I go landing page views, that's probably a couple of bucks more expensive, but there's a good reason for that. So link clicks means that Facebook is going to serve our ads in the audience that we've selected, and they're going to start sending the ads out, and they basically say, look, as soon as somebody clicks on the link, we're happy and we've done our job. We don't care what happens after that click. Now, the problem is that sometimes people will accidentally click on a link, or people will click on a link, the page takes too long to load, and they just bump back out of it. There's a few things why link clicks is poor quality, not poor quality, but it's not great quality traffic. If we're going to pay for this, and we still, at least want to make sure that people have seen the page that we're sending them to. So we have an idea of how they interact with our page, and we basically push them through that funnel. So link clicks is the cheapest, but I always go for landing page views, simply because at least I know that they've seen the page that I've sent them to, and now I know that Facebook has done its job. They've delivered me that visitor, and now it's up to the page that I send them to take the baton, so to speak, and then move them further along in either making a purchase, signing up to your newsletter, filling out an inquiry form, whatever it might be that you're trying to achieve here. So a landing page view guarantees is that, hey, Facebook will not charge us, or they will charge us, but they will actually get the people who see the page, and that it just works better. It makes sense, right? So link clicks could be anything. Link clicks could be anything, but landing page views, at least we know that people have seen our stuff. Does it all make sense so far? Because I'm talking, I'm not getting any questions. We got new people. Oliver, hello. Okay. I'm going to continue because I'm going to assume that everybody still knows what I'm talking about. All right. Now, cost per landing per result. This is basically if I would turn off my advanced campaign budget, my CBO, this gives us options to make bids. And I can say I'm willing to bid up to a certain, price point to win the auction. And this is like, you have to be a little bit more advanced in order to use this, because it's very easy to lose money here. Now, there are some ways to sort of guarantee that you would always win the auction, which is by simply bidding quite a bit higher than potentially what other people are bidding on. It's a bit of a dangerous strategy, because if you're in a competitive industry and you're going up against seasoned advertisers, they also know these tricks, and they know that, hey, you know what, we can actually deplete other companies' budgets by doing certain things. So as a beginner, I would just say leave it on the CBO, or the campaign advantage campaign budget. What did I call it again? Sorry, I keep forgetting. Advantage campaign budget plus. Yeah, if you use that option, then basically Facebook is going to automatically try and get the best results they can for your money. So turn that on. I would also suggest let Facebook do the heavy lifting, right? So don't try to be smarter than Facebook, because none of us are. Let them do the heavy lifting. So whatever you can sort of automate and optimize that way, just get that sorted. Okay. Some of the other options here, like I said before, you get charged per impression. We can't change that. And essentially what it means is the CPM. So you can see here, it actually doesn't show us in this info, but yeah, there are some other options. If you run, for example, ads, you'll they look at through plays, which is, you know, people have actually watched a certain amount of time of a video, that kind of stuff. But typically for traffic, this is just what we're going to go for. All right, so budget and scheduling. I said initially, where you have a lifetime budget, you can schedule ads a little bit more with more refinement, but obviously as a basic sort of schedule, even for daily budgets, it's just start at an end date. Let's say you've got an event on, and so you know, we're going to start running ads today. The event is on the 31st. And then we basically want to say, okay, there's no point in us running ads for this event anymore, because obviously, you know, it's been done and dusted. So we want to make sure we always have an end date. Quite often I see people, when they get started, they'll start an ad, but they forget to set an end date. They don't check it for a week, and basically ads have been running for an additional week, which obviously is not ideal. Okay, so you're happy to get an overview. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Okay, so audiences, this is your next section here. And then on the right-hand side, there's going to be a little indicator of, okay, you know, this gives you an estimated audience size. You know, if it's a specific audience, like in between, or if it's like fairly broad, and estimated daily results will come up typically, but in this case, they're not available because it has a budget optimized across all ad sets. So if I were to select the manual option, this will actually give us a bit of an idea of, like, hey, what can I expect as a result for the budget I'm trying to put in? Okay, so audiences are super important, right? There's no point running ads to the wrong people. So first and foremost, before you start any campaign, understand clearly who your audience is, what you're trying to achieve, and what you're trying to tell them. So I see a lot of people making a big mistake of having an audience mismatch. And, you know, they basically try to market to everyone at the same time. The idea here is to define the audience, not too deep. Like, you want to define it so at least Facebook knows which direction to go to. And just keep in mind that on average, in every single audience, there's going to be about 3% of people that are ready to buy right now. And then everyone else underneath that might be at a different stage. They might be in a decision-making stage. They might be in the problem awareness or solution awareness stage in terms of marketing terminology. And make sure that your messaging, depending on what your outcome is, make sure that your messaging actually fits that that situation, because that's going to give you the best results. So there's no point trying to, you know, run ads and really try and hard sell a product, an item, a service to an audience that's basically just problem aware, and they're not even aware of the fact that, hey, maybe there's a solution. Typically, what you would want to do with this Facebook ads is, when you have cold traffic, which is essentially a brand new audience that has no affinity with you, you don't want to do a hard sell, but what you can do is gauge interest, and whoever sort of responds, reacts, engages with your ads, we can then start retargeting those people. And this is where you typically start seeing more conversions, because we can, for example, with the Facebook pixel that I mentioned in the beginning, we can track people that visit the website after they've clicked on an ad, and we can see what they've done. So in an e-commerce example, if I have an ad for a new pair of shoes, somebody clicks on the ad, they look at the page that has the shoes, then they might click on the add to cart button, they might click on checkout, and then eventually purchase. So 4 steps would be view item, View item is simply them looking at the product page. Add to cart is an event that we can track. Then initiate checkout is another event, and then typically purchases at the end. Purchase, you can optimize for purchases within if you would do a sales objective, but keep in mind, like I just said, there's only going to be about 3% roughly in every market that is ready to buy right now. So what happens when you do a purchase objective is that it's first and foremost the most expensive one to bid for. So your CPM is going to go up quite significantly. And I wouldn't recommend it for a cold audience simply because it's basically hoping that Facebook happens to show your ads to the 3% in whatever audience size you have. If you have no data and you're new to Facebook ads and Facebook has no data collected on your pixel, I would always recommend starting up the very beginning of the funnel for the cheapest conversions, which is essentially the view item, for example. So I just want to have landing page views to my product page. My CPM is going to be much lower, which means I can go a lot further in terms of budget. And it also means that I might still get some sales, right? Because that 3% of the market is still in that audience. And if they happen to see that ad and it's exactly what they needed, they will still make a purchase. Facebook will optimize after they get about 50 events tracked per week, per 7 days. And an event is view item, an event is add to cart, an event would be initiate checkout, an event is purchase. So what Facebook does is they learn from these events. And let's say we run a campaign and within a week, we get 50 people to view our landing page. Now Facebook is going to go, okay, out of these 50 people, we have an audience of 500,000 people, but the 50 people that clicked on the page clearly are interested. And we're going to now look at what do they have in common. And Facebook then starts figuring out in the other 500,000 people we have here, who's very similar to these 50 people, and they're going to start trying to send your ads directly to those people. And that eventually ends up in getting more targeted ads. Your CPM is going to go down. You're going to get better results. And overall, that's what Facebook is looking for. So 50 events per week. And you can probably imagine that if my CPM is $5, so I'm just bidding for page views, $50 will take me a lot further than if my CPM is $50 and I'm trying to optimize for purchases and I just happen to get lucky and might get a couple of sales, but it's much more expensive to get 50 sales, 50 events that are purchases than 50 events that are, view items. Does that make sense? So really understanding that you need to give Facebook enough data for them to make decisions based on who they're going to show your ads to, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to who sees your ad and what stage you're at and how does that ad resonate with them. So if you bid for purchases, it's going to be really expensive. You might get lucky, but 9 out of 10 times, you're just going to spend a lot of money. You might get the view items, and you might get the add to carts, but it's not the event you're optimizing for, which means that Facebook is kind of discarding that information, and it's just a waste of money. Unless you have a lot of data on the pixel that has been collected over months and months or years and years, so Facebook has a really clear understanding of who your audience is. I would always suggest start at the beginning and then move your way up as soon as you get 50 events. So let's say you have 50 events on view item, then you can move across. Okay, I want to now have a campaign that's going to go, I want to optimize for my add to carts. If I got 50 there, I want to start optimizing for my initiate checkouts and then the purchases eventually. Does that make sense? How you would sort of try and balance that with your budget and the outcome that you're expecting? This probably gets a little bit tricky for some people, but yeah, that's pretty much the best way I can explain it. All right, so if we're going to go for audiences, I'm going to jump back in here. Audiences, we can do a few things, and I'm going to open up the audience tab here. On the left-hand side, in the 3 little lines, there's all your tools available, and audience is one of the ones that we would look for, and I'm also going to open up the events manager. So if we move this across, it always gets in the way. I'm just going to put it all the way down here. All right, audiences. So within here, I can say I want to search an existing audience, or I want to use a saved audience. Now, 3 types of audiences. A saved audience is nothing more than us saying to Facebook, for example, I've already got some examples here. You can see my naming convention here as well. AU, so Australian, ages are 35 to 55, male, female, and they have an affinity as a small business owner. So basically I say to Facebook, okay, the audience I want to get in front of are people that are in Australia between 35 and 55. I don't care if it's male or female, and they need to have a small business affinity. So that's basically typically a behavior. So Facebook can sort of figure out who's a business owner, or at least is very closely related to that sort of stuff. And you can see here in Australia, there's about 163 to 192,000 active Facebook users in that specific category. And that's all we can do, right? So we can go in here and say, well, I want to make sure that, for example, they live in this location. And keep in mind, if you have an audience, often it will default to living in or recently in this location, but make sure that you select living in this location, because typically you don't want to attract tourists, right? So let's say a tourist has been in your area, you start sending out ads, and then, Facebook says, well, these people were recently in your location, but they must have gone back to Europe or the US or wherever they came from, and they see those ads, but it's obviously never going to convert because it's not relevant for them. So make sure you choose the in this location. Typically, some of the things you can do here is, if I close this one up and I say, okay, I want to have detailed targeting. When you start off, there's no option. Obviously, this is an audience that we've already built, but if you put your first keyword in, and I would say, okay, small business owners. So you literally just start typing small business owners, and you can see Facebook gives us a bit of suggestions here. So if I'm just going to say small business owner, if I can type small business owners. So the behavior here is showing that there's about 40 to 47, 48 million people that have in that location that, they have that affinity with that keyword. And once I put the first one in, it becomes easier because I can just click on suggestions. And you can see now, because Facebook knows that I'm looking at small business owners, they also say, well, what else would you like to know? And this could be, for example, an interest, a job title, etc., and so forth. Keep in mind that if you're going to start defining it really, really defined in here, you're going to basically tell Facebook, you're going to give Facebook less opportunity to find the right people that might actually convert for you. So the smaller your audience, the harder it is going to be for Facebook, unless this is like, you're super clear on who your audience is and exactly who you want to get in front of. Typically, I would not recommend going too deep, simply because you're not giving Facebook the opportunity to go a little bit wider. There are options to actually say, well, initially, Facebook, I want you to look at my core audience, but if you can't find anybody for the budget that I have available in terms of my advertising spend, then I let you, you can see there's another plus icon here, the advantage detailed targeting. And this will reach people beyond our detailed targeting selections when it's likely to prove performance. So Facebook might say, well, we've actually found somebody who's like 34 or 56, and we believe that they might be a good fit. So they will actually, expand the actual audience a little bit, but they will stay close to your defined audience. All right, so I'm just going to close this up for now. So that's your saved audience. The second one that you can do is a custom audience, and a custom audience is much more interesting, because this is, as you can see, you can tell Facebook, for example, what source is this audience coming from. So a website would be typically anybody who has visited the website up to 180 days ago, so 6 months ago. So we can say anybody who's visited my website, is it 6 months or a year? Sorry, I think it's retention, 180 days. So basically, we can say to Facebook, anybody who visited my website in the last 6 months, I want you to include in this audience bucket that I'm creating, or this label. Because reason being, if we were to select that website there, we can do a few things. So first and foremost, you can see, okay, what's the source? And that's the pixel that I mentioned. So the pixel is installed on the website, and Facebook knows that anybody who's visiting that page will get added to that pixel database, so to speak. So make sure that that's selected. Then events, you can go a little bit deeper here. We can say, yes, I want to have all website visitors. I don't care where they went. Or you can say, I want to have people who visited a specific website or a web page. And this could be a product page, right? So we can say anybody who visited the new shoe collection that I had on my e-commerce website in the last, 180, 30, whatever sort of days you want to set. And we can then say the URL contains at least one of these values, and that would be, I don't know, shoes, if that's like your URL. So if I have a site that would be, onlinestore.com.au/shoes, we know that that is a page that we're now defining, and we say anyone who visited this page specifically, I want to start building an audience, because the reason you build an audience this way is for retargeting. And retargeting basically means that we can now have a second follow-up ad that will be sent directly to just these people. And typically I would use this along the lines of, let's say somebody's viewed an item on your e-com store, then they went to add to cart, they went to initiate checkout, but then they dropped out. Typically the biggest reason why people would drop out at the initiate checkout, so where they put their address details in and their credit card details, and then they don't actually complete the purchase, is because shipping will be calculated at that stage. So often people say, oh, this sounds like a really good deal, you know, $100 for a new pair of shoes. But then they get all the way to initiate checkout, and then they fill out all their details, and then it says, oh, there's an additional $20 on shipping. And then people go like, oh, I don't really want to pay an extra $20, so they just leave. So what you want to do here is you can say to Facebook, everybody who's went all the way to initiate checkout on this page, but did not make a purchase, we want to segment those people. And then the ad that we would send out would be, for example, free shipping in the next 24 hours. So what happens is they will see the shoes that they were looking at, but the messaging now would be, hey, we got free shipping today, but it's only for 24 hours. And now people go, oh, that's great. That's the pair that I wanted to buy. They're going to jump back in and they will continue their purchase, because basically their objection, which was the additional $20, $25 in shipping, has now been removed, and they're going to go, great, I'm actually going to go in and purchase. Now, the reason you'd want to do this is, sure, you might actually have less margin on this client because, you know, you're basically paying for your own shipping now. However, you've acquired a client, right? And it's all about client acquisition, because the biggest thing that you can do with, for example, e-com is the first thing is your average order value, to try and get somebody to buy more stuff in the same transaction. But you know that, for example, shoes, they wear out, and in 6 months' time, there might be a new collection out or whatever. We now have that client acquired, and we can, instead of sending them ads, we can have them on our mailing list and send an email to say, we've got a new collection coming out, check this out. And they will, you know, they're now lifetime clients. And what happens is they might, over their lifetime value, they might purchase 3, 4, 5, 6 times, which means that your cost per acquisition for this initial client might have been high, but every time they buy more through a different channel that you don't have to pay advertising spend for, that initial cost per acquisition technically goes down. So I would rather spend a little bit more initially and make a little bit less profit initially, or just break even, knowing that that person is going to come back for more. Does that make sense? So really being able to retarget people. So the audience setup is going to be important for you to get in front of the people at the right time, and working through their objections. Okay, so I'm not going to create this audience, but there's a few other things here. If you already have a customer list, for example, you can actually say to Facebook, right, I've got, you know, a list of 1,000 people that have been our clients for years, and we have all their details, so name, phone number, email address, wherever their location is, whatever they bought, whatever. So there's a whole bunch of information. The reason you'd want to use this is that if I were to upload a list, and that's just a CSV file or an Excel sheet, and what Facebook can do, the third option for an audience is a lookalike audience. Lookalike audience is basically us telling Facebook, hey, we've got our customer list, and I can say, for example, here, you know, customer list, obviously this is an empty one, but we would say, if there's 1,000 people in there, I don't want to use any of these, but if it's 1,000 people in there, we can then say, what I want to do, Facebook, is I want you to go in Australia, build me, let me close that up. Why is it not working? I want you to, oh, it's not clicking anymore. Anyway, hold on. Let me just close that and see if that works again. Create audience, lookalike audience. I want to create 2, Australia. And I'm just going to use that one. So just ignore the error messages there. But essentially what it does, out of those 1,000 people, what we're going to do is we're going to say to Facebook, right, I want you to create lookalike audiences in Australia. And in this case, 2 different ones, because we always want to have at least 2 audiences to test. And then we can see 0 to 1%, which is about 220,000 people. And then obviously, you know, this one is also 220,000 people. They're going to find people, like, remember I said the 50 events that you would have every week, and people and Facebook is going to start looking, okay, what do these 50 people have in common, and how can we create a profile and then start sending our ads to people that are very similar? This works exactly the same way, except we are already giving Facebook the conversion information. We can say these are 1,000 people that have already paid us at one stage. They didn't come from Facebook, but we actually know that these are the right people. And Facebook is going to build an audience that is very similar. The closer to zero you get, the higher the affinity level. So if I were to create 10 of these, or sorry, 6 of these, you'll see that if I get to the 6%, those people are still quite similar to the core audience of 1,000. However, they might not be as specific. And typically we find that within the first 2 or 3%, that's a really good qualified audience. So those are the 3 audiences. So the saved audience, which is essentially just you telling Facebook, well, these are the types of people I want to get in front of. Custom audience is like, okay, these are the people that I want to get in front of based on their activity on our website or on our ads, on whatever it might be. And a lookalike audience is creating an audience that is based on proven conversions. Does that so far make sense? Yeah, still no questions. That's always good. I hope you guys are not sleeping yet. All right, so I'm going to close this one up here, and I'll get to the events manager in a sec. All right, so back to the audience here. So in the ad set, we now want to say, okay, in this case, I only have an audience here that I just showed you, which is the Australian audience. So you can see once again on the right-hand side, the estimated audience sizes in there already. Now what we do is we grab this audience name, and I'll just copy that, and I'm going to rename my ad set to that, because now, as I said in the beginning, if I have a quick overlook or a quick overview on my campaign performance, I know exactly what this ad set is trying to target. So moving down here, placements, once again, it's got a little star icon thingy. I would recommend just using that, which means that instead of manually trying to select where exactly you would like your ad to show, and you can see there's quite a few options here, just use this one. And for especially as a beginner, just let Facebook decide, okay, where are we going to show your ads? So that's the ad set. So technically the ad set is only about, we're going to get send website traffic, and we're going to optimize for the landing page in this case, stop and start date, and the audience that we're going to get in front of. And placement. So we're going to hit next, and we're going to the ad. I'm just wary of the time. I really should make these longer because an hour is usually not enough. All right, first thing you want to do on the right-hand side is flick on the ad preview, simply because this is going to show you sort of what it's going to look like. Ad name, I'm going to call this DC, DC meaning dynamic creative. So I know that, okay, this is an actual dynamic creative ad. And then I'm going to obviously choose the page that I'm working with, which I think it's under here. Yep. Instagram account, if you have an Instagram account attached, you can also select that here. Now we know that this is needed for the ad to show up, right? So when an ad starts running, it'll show up as coming from that specific Facebook page. Now there's a few options here for your creative. You can either have a single image or a video or a carousel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a couple of images here. Where are we? Select images, and I've already uploaded a couple here, so I'm just going to upload these 3. Continue, and you'll see now quickly that these 3 images are basically the ones we're going to start using. And I need to select a destination, so I'm just going to do my own website, which is empty, and it's also just sending to the home page. But this is just an example, obviously. Okay, so you can see the preview here now. On the right-hand side, because I've set to Facebook, this is where I want to send people. These are the ad creatives elements that I have. Did I correctly? Preview URL. Yeah. Okay, so we can see sort of what it's going to look like. And you can see here as a carousel, there's going to be an ad here, but I can also click here, and you can see sort of people can flick through a couple of images. So this gives you a little bit of more visibility in the same ad placement. It won't cost you any extra. If I were to select a single image, you'll see that it's literally just a single image ad. The layout is slightly different. You'll have a little bit more content and copy at the top that people can look at. So yeah, I would always have maybe a test in terms of what performs better. Either one of these will work fine. I'm just going to go with a single one for now because that's the easy way to do it. And then you can see here the primary text, and they've already populated a little bit, but I can add an additional one, right? So this would then be, for example, number 2 text, number 3, and so forth. And what it means is the text we see up here on the top is going to change. Every time an ad gets loaded, it's either going to show this content or this text or this text. Headlines, same thing. We can have up to 5 different headlines, and it'll do the same thing. It'll basically, every time this ad will load, it'll either say chat with us or chat with us today. So this is where we really add the elements of those ads specifically. Call extension, if we have call extensions, we have a phone number, we can enable those things. A display link is purely if you want to, show people where this would actually go, which will typically, if somebody uses software like ClickFunnels, sometimes you'll see the URL that says, sales page, clickfunnels.com, whatever it might be, and that just looks a little bit tacky. So you can basically just have a display link to say, yourdomain.com/product or service. Always keep in mind that under the tracking section, this is super important. Make sure that you've selected the website events, because that's going to have the pixel track. If you don't select that and you're going to send out your ad, it'll still work, but your pixel is not going to collect any data, which means that you're basically not collecting anything that you potentially can use to optimize your campaigns. So that's in a nutshell the ad. And then if we were to say publish, and what happens now is publishing will start in the back end. Then what happens is Facebook is going to start processing the ad itself to say, okay, is this an actual, let me see which campaign did we do? This one, yeah. So you can see it's processing. And it just means that they're going, their system's crawling the ad to make sure that's all above board, but they also will crawl the landing page we're sending people to make sure that there's no dodgy things happening there. Once it's processed, it'll go into the review queue. So now it gets reviewed by, hey, is the content actually within our guidelines, etc.? Are they not, making get quick rich promises or, whatever sort of dodgy things that you shouldn't be doing? Once that is reviewed, it will actually get into the published stage. So you can always, I'll leave it at that for now. So what we want to do is under the campaign, like I mentioned before, we want to do some testing, right? So with it, I'm in the campaign here. So the one that we just set up, and we can see we've got one single ad set. But because we get set up a Advantage campaign budget, we want to make sure that we have at least 2 different ad sets in here, because then Facebook can pick and choose which one they believe works better. Because if you only have one running, you never know if it's going to be the best or the worst, because there's nothing to compare. And typically, once you have additional ad sets, Facebook will quickly identify the one that gives you better results for a better budget. So what you can easily do here, if you select the ad set and you would just say, I'm going to duplicate this, it's going to stay with the original campaign. We just want to make one copy, and any existing reactions, comments, and share on the ads will carry across. So we're just going to duplicate. And what happens is anything that was, because that umbrella structure, anything that was underneath the ad set itself will now also be copied. So your ad itself got copied. So you can see on the top left here, we now have a copy of, so this is the original one, the Australian one. And then there's a copy here, which now what we're going to do is everything stays the same. All the settings are exactly the same. However, we're going to change the audience to a similar audience, but in New Zealand. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the New Zealand and change that. So now we know this ad set is basically targeting the same type of people, but they're in a different location. So we're just going to go into the ad now. We want to make sure that all still works. And obviously, if you have copy in your ad that says, hey, we deliver Australia-wide, you'd want to go in here and make the change, hey, we deliver New Zealand-wide. Other than that, don't change anything and just hit publish. And now what you'll see is that once that publishing is completed, this will take a couple of seconds. Just jump back in there. Yeah, now you can see that underneath the one campaign that we have, this one, there's now going to be 2 different ad sets, and the $10 a day that we're going to be spending on that campaign will now be divvied up between those 2. Facebook will quickly favor one of the others based on the results that they see. So typically, make sure that before you make a decision to say, well, I'm going to turn one of these ad sets off because the other one's performing much better, one of the main things you want to look for is, are they both getting an equal amount of impressions? Because obviously, if Facebook has given one of them 5,000 impressions and the other one has only got like 500, we can't really compare the outcome. We can't say for sure that it's, a better ad set. So sometimes what we would do to say, okay, if one of them sprints ahead in a day or 2, we would just pause that one and we let the other one catch up. And then we can see, okay, now we know for sure that, hey, the Australian audience is actually giving us better performance for this specific campaign than the New Zealand one. And you can basically just shut down the New Zealand one permanently at that stage. But at least you've done that test and you now know, you have a much better understanding of what's going to work for you. And that's really it. So keep in mind, you got your campaign objectives. If I were to change my campaign objectives here, which I can't do anymore because these ads have technically been published now. But yeah, if you change that into lead forms, for example, you will see you have to do a bunch of other stuff like create a lead form and such and so forth. All right, any questions? We've got 5 minutes left, and I would like to see if there's any questions I can answer based on what we talked about today. But in a nutshell, that is Facebook. Make sure that you got your tracking pixels set up correctly and that your events are getting tracked correctly, because it is super important if you want to actually make the most out of this. It's much more than just putting a post out there, clicking on boost and hoping somebody actually takes action. There's a lot of moving parts here, but once you start doing this on a daily or weekly basis as a business owner, I basically highly recommend using the ad manager itself. If you want to learn more there, I'm just trying to if you want to search for a Facebook blueprint, so they have an online course, right? So which is purely officially from Facebook. So if we were to go to Facebook blueprint courses, and I'll put that link in the chat. That's gone to everyone. Yeah. Check that out. There's a lot of information in terms of how it all works. Obviously, we can only cover so much in an hour, and I've just given you sort of the bare minimum of how to set up your first campaign and sort of the things that you need to consider when you do. Yeah, that's the link for Facebook Business Blueprint. So you can even become certified if you'd like to. Any questions? If not, if I don't see any questions in the next minute or so, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to go grab a coffee and get on with my day. Don't see anything yet, so I'm going to assume everybody knew exactly what I was talking about and that we are all good. Yeah, no worries, Lucy. You're welcome. Jan, you're welcome. Yeah, no, it is a quick snapshot overview, but yeah, just keep in mind there's a lot of moving parts. It's not as easy as clicking a boost button if you want to get good results. All right, Tamala, Oliver, Taylor, I hope you guys all had some useful information in this session too. Yeah, we do Instagram as well. We run weekly workshops. I have to do Google stuff like Google My Business, and I do the Facebook ads specific. Instagram is technically I would run ads on Instagram, and it works exactly the same way that we just looked at. If you're talking about organic content on Instagram, I don't do that, but we have a few people under advisors that run events. So if you just want to check out businessstation.com.au and our events page, that you'll see whatever workshops and webinars we run every single week. So yeah, that's it for me. Hope you guys have a great day, and I might catch you in the next one. So that is me signing off. All right, you're welcome. Cheers.